Her life is in danger. Come immediately, I cried into the phone, my voice trembling with fear. My 15-year-old daughter, Sophia, had been in a terrible bicycle accident. She was unconscious, and I was standing in the hospital hallway, barely able to hold myself together. I frantically dialed my husband Ryan, hoping he would drop everything and rush to the hospital. When he answered, I could immediately tell he was drunk. His voice was slurred and there was loud music in the background. I can't come, he said casually, as if I had just asked him to pick up groceries. I'm at an end-of-year party. I froze, unable to believe what I was hearing. Ryan, our daughter might die. How can you say that? I pleaded, my voice breaking. But instead of showing any concern, he sighed impatiently. I'm busy. I'll call you later, he said, before abruptly hanging up. I stood there staring at my phone in disbelief. My hands clenched into fists as anger surged through me. How could he prioritize a party over his own daughter, I thought. At that moment, I realized something I'd been avoiding for years. I didn't need a husband like him. A man who could so easily dismiss his family in their time of need wasn't a husband or a father. Furious and determined, I made a decision that would change everything. I picked up my phone again, but this time I wasn't calling Ryan. I was calling someone who could help me take back control of my life. Ryan and I met when we were both in our early 20s. Back then I was a young interior designer, passionate about my work and determined to build a name for myself. I had just opened my own small design firm in the city, and though it was tough, I loved every moment of it. Ryan, on the other hand, was just starting out in the corporate world. He worked as a junior employee at a small tech company, struggling to make ends meet. Despite his challenges, he was kind, hardworking, and full of dreams. We met through mutual friends, and it didn't take long for us to fall in love. After 2 years of dating, we got married. Life wasn't easy, but we were happy. When I became pregnant with Sophia, I took on the role of the primary breadwinner, while Ryan worked long hours trying to climb the corporate ladder. I supported him through those difficult years. When Sophia was 3, Ryan's hard work finally paid off. He launched his own tech startup, and within a few years, it became wildly successful. By the time he was in his mid-30s, Ryan was a well-known name in the industry. We moved into a beautiful house in the suburbs, but as Ryan's career soared, our family life began to crumble. At first, it was small things. He started coming home late, claiming he was busy with work. Then he began missing important family events. I'm doing this for us, he would say whenever I confronted him. You and Sophia deserve the best, and I'm working hard to give it to you. I wanted to believe him. I told myself that his long hours and constant absences were temporary, that he would eventually find a balance between work and family. But as the years went by, it became clear that Ryan's priorities had shifted. He stopped helping around the house entirely. I was running my design firm, taking care of Sophia, and managing all the household responsibilities on my own. Whenever I asked him to pitch in, he would brush me off. Emily, I'm exhausted, he would say, sprawled out on the couch. I've been working all day. Can't you handle it? I tried to be understanding, but his attitude only got worse. He started treating me like a maid rather than his wife. Ryan, can you at least put your clothes in the laundry basket? I asked one evening, frustrated after a long day. He didn't even look up from his phone. Why are you nagging me? I'm tired. Just do it yourself. I bit my tongue and picked up his clothes, but inside I was seething. This wasn't the man I had married. The worst part was how his behavior affected Sophia. When she was younger, Ryan had been an enthusiastic father. He attended her school events, played with her in the backyard, and read her bedtime stories. But as his career took off, he became more and more distant. By the time Sophia was in middle school, Ryan barely acknowledged her. He missed her school plays, her sports events, and even her birthdays. Dad, can you come to my sports festival this Saturday? Sophia asked him one evening, her voice filled with hope. Ryan glanced at his calendar and frowned. I can't. I have plans. What plans? I asked, trying to hide my frustration. I'm going to the sauna with some colleagues, he said nonchalantly. Sophia's face fell. But it's my last sports festival in middle school, she said quietly. I'm sorry, Sophia. Maybe next time, he replied, not even looking at her. There was no next time. After that, Sophia stopped asking her father to attend her events. She stopped talking to him altogether. I tried to bridge the gap between them, telling Sophia, "Your dad loves you, he's just busy," but even I didn't believe my own words anymore. The man who had once been a loving husband and father was now a stranger, and as much as I tried to hold our family together, I could feel it slipping through my fingers. As Ryan's career continued to flourish, the cracks in our family grew deeper. It wasn't just his absence that hurt. It was his complete lack of effort to be a part of our lives. At home, Ryan acted as though he was a guest rather than a husband or father. He never helped with housework, never asked about Sophia's day, and never showed any interest in the little things that made up our lives. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day at work, I came home to find the house in complete disarray. Ryan was lying on the couch scrolling through his phone, while his clothes were scattered across the floor. "Ryan," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "how many times do I have to ask you to put your clothes in the laundry basket? I can't keep picking up after you." He didn't even glance at me. "I'm tired, Emily. Can't you see that? I've been working all day." "You were off yesterday and today," I shot back. "The least you could do is help out a little. It's not just about me, it's about setting an example for Sophia." That got his attention. He sat up and glared at me. "You're so ungrateful," he snapped. "Do you have any idea how hard I work to give you and Sophia this life? This house, everything you have is because of me." I felt my blood boil. "I work too, Ryan. I've been running my own business and taking care of this house and Sophia all by myself. You don't get to act like you're the only one contributing." But no matter what I said, it was like talking to a wall. Ryan would either ignore me or respond with sarcasm. Eventually, I gave up arguing and picked up his clothes myself, seething with frustration. The situation with Sophia was even worse. When she was younger, she adored her father. She would run to him when he came home, excited to tell him about her day. But as she grew older, she began to see the truth. One day, when Sophia was in middle school, she came to Ryan with a hopeful smile. "Dad, you said you'd be off this Saturday, right? It's my last sports festival in middle school. Can you come watch?" Ryan barely looked up from his laptop. "I can't make it that day," he said flatly. Sophia's smile faltered. "Why not? Do you have work?" "No," he replied, still typing. "I'm going to the sauna to relax. I can't miss that." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Ryan, are you serious? It's her last sports festival. She's been looking forward to this for weeks." "She'll have other events," he said dismissively. Sophia didn't say another word. She quietly retreated to her room, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. That night, I tried to talk to her. "Your dad loves you, Sophia," I said, sitting on the edge of her bed. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "If he loves me, why doesn't he care?" I didn't know how to answer her. I wanted to defend Ryan, to make excuses for him, but I couldn't. The truth was, he didn't care. Not the way a father should. After that, Sophia stopped trying to connect with her father. She stopped asking him to come to her events, stopped sharing her thoughts with him, and eventually stopped talking to him altogether. Ryan, in turn, showed no interest in repairing their relationship. He seemed content to live in his own world, oblivious to the damage he was causing. The final straw came one night, just a few weeks before the end of the year. Ryan came home late from work, as usual, and went straight to the kitchen. "Hey," he called out, "there's no beer in the fridge." I looked up from the paperwork I was reviewing. "Oh, I must have forgotten to buy some. There's whiskey, though." He clicked his tongue in annoyance. "Unbelievable. What kind of wife forgets to buy beer? Go get some now." It was already past 11 p.m. and I was exhausted. "If it's that urgent, Go buy it yourself, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Before I could say anything else, Sophia called me from upstairs. Mom, can you come here for a second? I'm coming, I replied, ignoring Ryan's glare as I headed upstairs. As I sat in Sophia's room, talking to her about her homework, I heard the front door slam shut. Ryan had stormed out, clearly furious. Dad seems really upset, Sophia said, rolling her eyes. What's his deal? I tried to make excuses for him, as I always did. Maybe he's just tired from work, I said, though even I didn't believe it anymore. Little did I know, that night would set off a chain of events that would change everything. It was a cold evening, just a few weeks before the end of the year. Sophia had come home from school, eaten dinner, and was getting ready to head to her nearby cram school. She was cheerful as always, her backpack slung over her shoulder as she grabbed her bike from the garage. Be careful, it's dark out, I reminded her as she opened the door. I know, Mom, I'll be fine, see you later, she replied with a bright smile, before pedaling off into the night. 15 minutes later, I heard the sound of emergency sirens outside. At first, I didn't think much of it. Our neighborhood was usually quiet, but accidents happened from time to time. However, as the sound grew louder and closer, a strange sense of dread crept over me. Curious, I stepped outside and saw flashing lights at the bottom of the long hill in front of our house. An ambulance and a police car were parked there, and a small crowd had gathered. My heart began to race. No, it can't be, I thought, but my legs were already moving. I ran down the hill, pushing through the crowd, and that's when I saw it. A mangled bicycle lying on the ground, completely unrecognizable. My blood ran cold. No, this can't be happening, I whispered, my voice trembling. I pushed my way closer and saw the paramedics lifting someone onto a stretcher. Her face was covered in blood, her body limp and unresponsive. Sophia, I screamed, rushing forward. I'm her mother, please, let me go with her. The paramedics allowed me to ride in the ambulance as they worked to stabilize her. I held her hand, trembling, as they explained the situation. She was going down the hill when her bike collided with a car at the intersection, one of them said. It seems like her brakes failed. Her brakes? That didn't make sense. Sophia was always careful, always cautious. She would never cross an intersection without checking both ways. At the hospital, I paced the hallway, waiting for news about her condition. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what had happened. The police arrived shortly after, and they confirmed what the paramedics had said. The brakes on Sophia's bike had failed. I couldn't understand it. The bike had been working perfectly fine the day before. How could the brakes suddenly fail? Then a memory flashed in my mind. Ryan, the night before, he had stormed out of the house furious because I refused to buy him beer. He had taken Sophia's bike to the supermarket. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. Could he have done something to the bike? I hadn't contacted Ryan yet, so I pulled out my phone and called him. After a few rings, he answered, his voice casual. Ryan, it's Sophia. She's been in an accident. Her life is in danger. Come to the hospital right now, I cried, my voice breaking. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What? What happened? He asked, but his tone was distant, almost uninterested. She was hit by a car because her bike's brakes failed. She's unconscious, Ryan. You need to come now. I'm at an end of your party, he said, his voice slurred. I can't leave right now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ryan, our daughter might die. How can you say that? Look, I'll come later, okay? I'm busy right now, he replied. Busy? You're drunk at a party while our daughter is fighting for her life, I shouted, but before I could say anything else, he hung up. I stood there, stunned. My hands were shaking and tears streamed down my face. How could he be so heartless? But then, something about his reaction struck me as odd. When I mentioned the brakes, He seemed panicked. The next day, after Sophia's surgery, I went home to check the security footage from the camera at our front door. I needed to know the truth. As I watched the footage, my heart sank. There he was, Ryan. Returning from the supermarket on Sophia's bike, he stopped in front of the house, got off the bike, and bent down to inspect the brakes. He fiddled with them for a few moments before walking inside. I felt a wave of nausea. He had known. He had known the brakes were faulty and hadn't said a word. When the police confirmed that the brakes had been tampered with, I knew I couldn't stay silent. Ryan's negligence had nearly cost our daughter her life. But that wasn't all. As I dug deeper, I discovered even more about the man I had married. The next evening, I made a call to Ryan, but to James Carter, the president of Ryan's company. James was one of my regular clients at my design firm, though Ryan had no idea. I explained everything to him, the accident, Ryan's behavior, and the security footage. James was shocked. I had no idea he was like this, he said. Thank you for telling me, Emily. I'll handle it. 2 days later, I showed up at Ryan's office unannounced. He was in the middle of a meeting with James when I walked in. Emily, what are you doing here? Ryan asked, his face pale. Ignoring him, I turned to James. Thank you for your help, I said, bowing slightly. James nodded. I've made my decision. Ryan, you're no longer fit to represent this company. Your actions have consequences. Ryan's eyes widened. What? You can't do this. My personal life has nothing to do with my work. James remained calm. Your behavior reflects on this company. I can't trust someone who prioritizes a party over their family. Ryan turned to me, his face red with anger. You did this. You ruined everything. I didn't flinch. No, Ryan. You ruined everything the moment you stopped caring about your family. Ryan stood there, frozen, his face a mix of shock and anger. He couldn't believe what was happening. For years, he had built his image as a successful businessman and a devoted family man. But now, everything was crumbling around him, and he had no one to blame but himself. I turned to James Carter, the president of Ryan's company, and said, Thank you for listening to me and for taking this matter seriously. I know it wasn't an easy decision. James nodded, his expression firm. Emily, I've always respected you as a professional, and I'm sorry you've had to go through this. But I can't allow someone like Ryan to represent this company. His actions are unacceptable. Ryan slammed his hand on the desk, his voice rising. This is ridiculous. My personal life has nothing to do with my work. You can't just fire me over something like this. James remained calm, his tone unwavering. Ryan, this isn't just about your personal life. It's about your character. If you can't prioritize your family in a life or death situation, how can I trust you to prioritize this company? This is my final decision. Ryan turned to me, his eyes blazing with fury. You did this. You went behind my back and ruined everything. I met his gaze, unflinching. No, Ryan. You ruined everything the moment you stopped caring about your family. You left me to handle everything on my own, and you nearly cost our daughter her life. I'm done protecting you. But I wasn't finished yet. I pulled out my phone and showed him the video that had been circulating online. It was a recording posted by one of Sophia's friends, detailing everything that had happened: the accident, Ryan's refusal to come to the hospital, and his neglect as a father. The title of the video read, The Hidden Truth About Ryan Carter, the Neglectful Father Behind the Perfect Image. Ryan's face turned pale as he watched the video. What is this? How did this get out? Sophia told her friend everything after she woke up, I said calmly, and her friend decided to post it. Middle schoolers these days are pretty resourceful, don't you think? You need to take this down, Ryan shouted, his voice desperate. If this spreads, my reputation will be ruined. I crossed my arms and stared at him. Why should I? Everything in that video is true. You've been lying to the world for years, pretending to be the perfect husband and father. It's time people saw the real you." Ryan's hands trembled as he pulled out his own phone. His face turned even paler as he read the latest headlines. One of them caught his attention. Ryan Carter linked to daughter's accident, negligence or something more. What is this?" he stammered, looking up at me. I took a deep breath and said, "The police confirmed that the brakes on Sophia's bike were tampered with, and I have security footage showing you inspecting the bike the night before the accident. You knew the brakes were faulty, Ryan. You knew and you didn't say anything." Ryan's face twisted in anger. "I didn't tamper with the brakes, I just checked them because I thought you'd blame me if something went wrong." "Then why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked, my voice steady. "Why didn't you warn Sophia? If you had, this accident could have been avoided." He opened his mouth to respond, but quickly closed it again. He had no excuse. But I wasn't done yet. I reached into my bag and pulled out a photo, sliding it across the desk toward him. It was a picture of Ryan entering a hotel with a young woman, a well-known social media influencer who had been appearing in tabloids recently. Ryan's face turned ashen. "Where did you get this?" "The president showed it to me," I said coldly. "He was trying to handle this quietly, but I've had enough. You've been cheating on me, Ryan. While I was at home taking care of our daughter, you were out with her." James shook his head in disappointment. "Ryan, I trusted you. I thought you were a man of integrity, but clearly I was wrong. This isn't just about your family anymore. It's about your lack of character. I'm canceling your contract, effective immediately, and will be claiming the penalty fees for your endorsements." Ryan collapsed into his chair, his head in his hands. "You can't do this to me," he muttered. "If I lose my job and my family, what will I have left?" I stood up, my voice firm. "That's not my problem, Ryan. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. I'm filing for divorce, and I'll be claiming alimony and child support. Sophia and I don't need you anymore." Ryan looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "Emily, please, don't do this. Family is supposed to support each other in times like this." I laughed bitterly. "Don't talk to me about family, Ryan. You stopped being a part of this family a long time ago." With that, I turned and walked out of the office, leaving him behind. In the days that followed, the video posted by Sophia's friend went viral. At first, people dismissed it as baseless gossip, but when the tabloids picked up the story and published photos of Ryan with the influencer, the backlash was swift and brutal. Ryan's image as a devoted family man was destroyed. His company announced that they had terminated his contract, and he was forced to pay a $500,000 penalty for breaching his endorsement deals. I finalized our divorce and received over $1 million in property division, alimony, and child support. Ryan, who had spent most of his earnings on his lavish lifestyle, was left with nothing. Ryan's life unraveled faster than anyone could have imagined. The man who had once been celebrated as a successful entrepreneur and a devoted family man was now the subject of public ridicule and scorn. The video exposing his neglect and indifference toward his family spread like wildfire. At first, Ryan tried to dismiss it as baseless gossip, but the evidence was undeniable. The security footage of him tampering with Sophia's bike brakes, combined with the testimonies from me and Sophia, painted a damning picture. The tabloids didn't hold back either. Within days, they published photos of Ryan entering a hotel with a young influencer he had been secretly seeing. Headlines like "Ryan Carter, the double life of a neglectful father and cheating husband," dominated the news. His company, under immense public pressure, released a statement announcing that Ryan's contract had been terminated. They cited his unprofessional behavior and actions that do not align with the company's values as the reasons for his dismissal. But the fallout didn't stop there. Ryan had been the face of several high-profile endorsement deals, all of which were immediately canceled. The penalty fees alone amounted to $500,000, wiping out most of his savings. With no income and mounting debts, Ryan was forced to sell his luxury car and move out of our family home. He rented a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, far from the life of comfort and prestige he had once enjoyed. The neighbors who had once admired him now avoided him entirely. Parents whispered about him at school events, and former colleagues refused to take his calls. Ryan had become a pariah, shunned by everyone who had once been a part of his life. But the worst part for Ryan wasn't the loss of his career or his reputation, it was the loss of his family. Sophia refused to see him. After the accident, she made it clear that she wanted nothing to do with her father. "He doesn't care about me, so why should I care about him?" she said one evening, her voice filled with quiet resolve. As for me, I had no sympathy left for him. I finalized our divorce and ensured that Sophia and I would be financially secure. The court awarded me over $1 million in property division, alimony, and child support. Ryan, who had spent most of his earnings on his extravagant lifestyle, was left with nothing. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Ryan had become a recluse. He rarely left his apartment, spending his days drinking and wallowing in self-pity. The man who had once been on top of the world was now a shadow of his former self. And yet I felt no pity for him. Ryan had made his choices, and now he was living with the consequences. As the dust settled, I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened. The past few years had been a whirlwind of pain, betrayal, and heartbreak, but they had also been a journey of growth and resilience. Sophia and I had come out of it stronger than ever. She had fully recovered from her accident and was thriving in high school. Her confidence and happiness were returning, and she was surrounded by friends who supported her. Watching her smile and laugh again reminded me of why I had fought so hard to protect her. As for me, I poured my energy into my design firm, which had grown significantly over the past year. The work kept me busy, but it also gave me a sense of purpose. I was building a life for myself and Sophia, one that was stable, secure, and filled with love. Brian, on the other hand, had faded into the background of our lives. After the divorce was finalized, I cut off all contact with him, except for the occasional updates about child support payments. He tried to reach out a few times, sending me long, rambling messages about how he wanted to make amends, but I didn't respond. I knew better than to let him back into our lives. Ryan had made his choices, and he had to live with the consequences. I wasn't going to let him drag us down again. The public eventually moved on from the scandal. News stories took over the headlines, and Ryan's name faded from the spotlight. But for those who knew him, he would always be a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when ambition and selfishness take precedence over family and integrity. Looking back, I realized that I had spent so many years trying to hold our family together, even when it was clear that Ryan wasn't willing to do the same. Letting go of him was the hardest thing I had ever done, but it was also the best decision I could have made for myself and Sophia. Now, our days are filled with laughter, love, and hope for the future. We've built a life that's free from the chaos and toxicity that Ryan brought into our world. And for the first time in a long time, I feel at peace. Thank you for watching this story on Revenge Faithful. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more powerful stories of resilience, betrayal, and redemption, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think about today's story. Remember, every action has consequences, and every story has a lesson. Stay tuned for more gripping tales, only on Revenge Faithful. See you in the next video.